What up, guys? The Bench Buddies are back for our Week 14 college football preview, which is championship week for most teams. Besides one exception of a rescheduling this week, all the games are going to be championship games. And, we'll start by going over last week's results of the rivalry week. And I was the big winner, I guess you could say. I beat Ty last week by 2 games, but you still got me by 5 moving forward. And, the Michigan game we were at, we both picked that one right. A little biased too. They were the underdog in the game. But luckily we got that one right and got an experience of a lifetime. What else, kind of surprised you this week for the picks?
North Carolina, huge choke at the end of that game. Not only could you not recover an onside kick, but you gave up 2 bombs through the air. So that one was tough to lose. But screw the picks. Let's talk again about the Michigan domination of that school they call Ohio State. Just basically that game felt like we're going to run the ball. And everyone knew they were going to run the ball, and it didn't matter. They did it with success. 5 touchdowns to Sam Haskins. So huge win for Michigan. Hopefully they can follow it up this week.
And we'll start with our first championship game. And I don't even know what conference this is, if I'm being honest. I think it's is it Conference USA? Is that what it is?
Yes.
Okay. So I had a great guess there. Then we got UTSA versus Western Kentucky. And I'm only going with UTSA just because their first loss was last week in a big blowout. But I think, to their point, they didn't really care because they're really playing for this conference title only. And I think they're going to get it done, especially coming off the first loss of the week. Obviously they still wanted to win and have that perfect season going into a bowl game. And I think they're going to move to 12-1 here to head into bowl season.
Yeah, I'm going with Western Kentucky here. I think UTSA has been kind of squeaking out a lot of wins up until last week. And obviously last week they got kind of destroyed by North Texas. So Western Kentucky already played. UTSA lost 52-46. I only know that because I just looked it up. But I think they're going to have some revenge on their minds. I think it's tough to beat a team twice, especially in football and especially when you don't have a huge talent advantage. So I'm going to go with Western Kentucky here to pull the upset and win Conference USA.
And you can say the same thing about this Utah team for Oregon as well. It's tough to beat a team twice. And for the Pac-12 championship, this is pretty much to see who goes to the Rose Bowl. These teams really don't have a shot to make the playoffs unless Oregon gets in, and somehow almost all the major conferences, they lose. That's really only Oregon's shot. But I'm going with Utah here because I think they will beat the team twice because they just showed complete domination of Oregon when they played them. And I think they're going to do it again because, Oregon may try to stop it, but I just think Utah's too good to stop right now. They're on fire right now, not a team you want to play. And unfortunately for Oregon, they're going to have to play them twice. And I believe, Oregon will cover that spread or Utah will cover that spread as well.
Call me crazy, but I'm going with Oregon despite getting absolutely blown out the first time these two teams played. The first time all the pressure was on Oregon. They were going on the road, a night game. So I think you can kind of throw most of that game out. A lot of the pressure now is on Utah. You already blew out Oregon, so now everyone's saying, well, you got to beat them again. There's no way you could lose. But I think on paper, Oregon is still the better team, and they have the better coach. I think Oregon's going to be able to run the ball much better than they did the first time these teams played. And we've seen this a couple years ago. I think it was Auburn blew out Georgia, and then Georgia blew them out in the SEC championship. So the regular season game doesn't mean as much as people want it to. I think Oregon is going to win this game. I think Utah might be a little overconfident after blowing them out the first time.
And I start off Saturday with the biggest game, I would say, of the weekend. People may say a few other games, but in my opinion, Oklahoma State wins, they're in. I honestly think no matter of any result of any other game, they're the most deserving team. their only loss is to this Baylor team. And if they can come back in the title game, beat Baylor, the team they lost to already, really shows that how much this team has improved since then. And it's only been, I believe, a month or so. And they've just got hot at the right time. That Oklahoma State game was a thriller at the end. And I don't know. I've just really liked this Cowboys team so far this year, and I think they're going to get it done again. And I think they will make a college football playoff this year.
Yeah, I was tempted to go with Baylor in this game. There's a lot of pressure on Oklahoma State. Obviously, I would say if Georgia wins, then it's a win and you're in situation for Oklahoma State. But let's say Alabama beats Georgia. Oklahoma State would have to, I would think they would have to dominate this game to pass Cincinnati for that fourth spot. Because obviously you're going to have Alabama, Michigan, Georgia. So I think there's a lot of pressure on them in this game. They almost feel like they have to blow out Baylor just in case, because obviously they play before that Alabama Georgia game. So that could play a factor, but I just think they're the better team, and I think they're going to go out there and prove it. And I think their defense is going to shut down Baylor like they have to a lot of other teams this season.
And another game at 12, you got the MAC championship and NIU and Kent State. And the only thing I know about these two teams is the Michigan State transfer Rocky Lombardi is the quarterback at NIU. And I think it's a good fit for him there. You know, he's already led them to a MAC championship. And I just think they're going to keep it rolling here. You know, they're not the favorites, but NIU has played some solid football this year. I've seen on the MACtion days on Tuesday and Wednesday because it's the only really thing that's been on for a while. And, you know, I'm liking the NIU just because the Huskies, you know, former Husky right here. So I think that's why I'm going with the Huskies here. Got to have some weird bias to go into it.
Yeah, I'm just going to stick with my theme I've kind of had going here. These teams have already played this season. Kent State beat them. I think Northern Illinois gets their revenge here. There's going to be a lot of points scored, two good offenses, but the Huskies have the better quarterback of the two teams, so I'm picking them.
And at 3, you got a game probably nobody will watch because the Georgia and Alabama game is on. But if you like low scoring, this is the game for you. You know, San Diego State seems like they win 21-17 or even, you know, an even closer and low scoring game than it is. But, you know, we're both rocking with San Diego State here. I just think based on the fact that they find ways to win no matter what it takes. You know, you were kind of critical on them a little bit there, like shaky and still finding ways to win at like halfway through the season. And they're still doing it, but you know, at the end of the day, a win's a win, and they've been doing it recently. And I think they're going to win the conference here.
San Diego State, yeah, I'm finally picking them. That is correct. I know I picked against them basically all season, but I'm finally getting aboard the Brady Hoke train here. And I think this program is in a great place. I don't think he's going to take any other job. He's already tried it, obviously, at Michigan. So I think he's there to stay for a while. And I think they win this game. 12-win season. Pretty remarkable for San Diego State. So the future's bright there, and they should get this win.
And at 3:30, we've got App State versus Louisiana Raging Cajuns, which I believe their coach just left to go to, was it Kent State or not Kent State? Florida. Definitely gonna be an interesting move there. And you know, they don't have a coach now for this game, which, you know, I kind of hate bringing up that topic because I think it's, you know, you're preaching to your players to be loyal and all this, and then nope, I'm just gonna leave because better offer. I'm still going with Louisiana just because this team still has a lot to prove. You know, they play their whole year for this moment to win the conference, and I think they're going to get it done. And App State, though, to their credit, there's a really good team this year. You know, just becoming a D1 team just less than 5 years ago and already ripping off a 10-2 record really shows how good this program is.
Yeah, I did just look it up, and apparently Billy Napier from Louisiana will coach this game. Not sure about the bowl game, but he will coach in this game. So that does help Louisiana, but I just think Appalachian State, there's fewer distractions going on with their team than, their opposition. So I think they're going to go in there and win the conference. And this team has just put together a 10-win culture for that program. It seems like every year they're 10, 11 wins, and I think that continues.
And here we are, the game of the week voted on by College Game Day. And I mean, how can it not be 1 versus 3? Winner goes to the playoffs. Even technically loser probably will too in Georgia. But I don't see how Georgia loses, and I don't see how they don't cover this spread. Alabama the last month has looked like they will lose every game that they've played in for 3 quarters, and some way find a way to win in the 4th quarter. Auburn pretty much gave them a chance last week, not sitting down inbounds and running out of bounds in the 4th quarter, which obviously at the end costed them the game in the 4th overtime. And Alabama shouldn't even be ranked this high. I think it's still biased because it's Alabama, Nick Saban, media, all that stuff. And Georgia, though, to their credit, easily the hands down best team in football, not even debatable. They haven't had one scare this year in upset, nothing. They've covered every spread, I believe, blown out every team. And at the beginning of the year, they didn't even know who they were starting at quarterback. That's just how good this team is. It doesn't even matter who they have out there. Stetson Barrett or JT Daniels, whatever, it doesn't matter. They're still going to put up probably 30, 40 points a game, and their defense is maybe going to give you 10. So, at the end of the day, I think you'd be a fool to pick against Georgia and to even take the spread of Alabama.
Yeah, I'd say the only thing that could maybe get in Georgia's way is, basically they're already in. No one really wants to say that in the committee or these analysts, but Georgia's in, win or lose. They're either number 1 or number 3. But, this is the SEC championship, and everyone in the SEC always says, oh, it means more in the SEC. Well, here's where we find out. Is Georgia going to go out there motivated to win their conference and, stake their claim at number 1 in the country, or are they going to come out flat knowing they're already in the playoff? I think they're going to come out motivated because they've lost to Alabama too many times in heartbreaking fashion. They really want to beat these guys. And I think knowing that if they beat them, more than likely they knock them out of the playoff. I think that's enough to really fire up Georgia. And if motivation's all I'm talking about here, that's all you need to know. Georgia's clearly the better team. So as long as they're playing how they should be, I think they should cover that spread as well. I think that spread's only kind of low because of what I said. Alabama has a little bit more to play for. I don't think it matters. I think Georgia wins by 10, and Alabama, season over. See you later.
And another great game on Saturday is Cincinnati and Houston. And this game is going to fly way under the radar just because of the Alabama game. And, Houston at 21, 11-1, they get no recognition right now because 1, they haven't played Cincinnati yet this year. And 2, because they're not in a Power 5 conference. If they're in the Pac-12, I guarantee you right now that it's 2 versus probably top 10 just because the conference. And I will take Cincinnati any day over a few of the top 10 teams right now, even Houston. With Ole Miss, honestly, I think Houston could beat Ole Miss too. There's just lots of teams that could interchange, but that line of 10.5 is a scary line. Neutral site game, you can't really know what's going to go on. I'd say if it's a home game, okay, you can give them reason, but I think this game is going to be a lot closer than the spread and people think it's going to be. And I think, around 7 o'clock when the game's starting to get over, I think more people are going to tune into this game rather than that Georgia-Alabama game to see if Cincinnati is going to make the playoff or they're going to falter their chance. And maybe, Houston, I don't think they'll get in if they win here, but the committee's got to show them some love, possibly a top 10 team for sure if they can win this game. But I don't think they will. and Cincinnati will win this game and be the 3 seed in the playoff.
Yeah, I'm going to Cincinnati. Obviously, it seems like everyone's saying that they have so much pressure on them, to get in the playoff. All the pressure's on Cincinnati. But it seems like we've been saying that all year, really, with every game they play. Oh, this team's coming in, playing loose. But it doesn't matter. Cincinnati, obviously they struggled through a few games, but they played SMU, who's a good team in that conference, a few weeks ago, and they blew them out by 34. So I think playing Houston, I don't see them having enough trouble where this is a game, coming down to the last second or anything like that. I think they'll, I think it won't be in doubt at the end of the game that Cincinnati was a better team. The spread, I've learned with Cincinnati, you should never touch a spread in a Cincinnati game. They're either gonna, cover the spread by 20 points or they're gonna win in overtime. That's what it seems like this year. So I wouldn't even touch that. I think Cincinnati's going to win this game by 10 to 14 points. And I think they'll get in, like you said, as the 3 seed. If not the 3, they'll be the 4.
And our game that we need to happen, we're both going with Michigan here with the bias and everything, and we want them in the playoff, obviously, as huge Michigan fans here. But everything I've seen so far on all the daily wager on ESPN and, spreads, Vegas, everything, all the betting, everybody's hammering Michigan right now in this game, and even spread included. Just because of last week's performance, may carry over a little bit into this bet against Ohio State, finally beating them after 10 years, first under Jim Harbaugh, ranked number 2 in the country. But you got to slow your roll a little bit as a Michigan fan and, as a bettor as well. This Iowa team has had the most quiet 10-2 season, I'd probably say, in a long time. They have some risky, close call wins and a really good defense to, back up their average at best offense. But defending Iowa, they still got to get to 10-2 and what? They were a top 5 team, I think, this year at one point.
Yeah.
So, obviously that the committee, the AP polls, everyone has showed them love. But I just don't think, it's going to happen for them just because, Michigan is on cloud 9, and I think they're going to stay there until they at least get to the playoff. And Aiden Hutchinson needs that love for Heisman candidate. It doesn't have to be a quarterback every year. In a year of quarterbacks where you don't really know which one could win it, give it to Hutchinson. If he has 3 more sacks, just like he did last weekend, 16 sacks in 13 games is an insane amount, especially in college football. But for the pick wise, I got to roll with Michigan. All bias aside, I just think they're going to run it just like they did last week against Ohio State, and they're going to pound the rock. It may be, not as high scoring as last week, but I think Michigan will win and cover as well.
I think the key for Michigan is you got to stop the run on the other side. Iowa's quarterback, Spencer Petras, he's struggled a lot this year in big games like this. He's struggled with accuracy. So I think if you can stop the run up the middle primarily, Iowa, obviously, they're not going to want to run it at Hutchinson or Ojabo. They're going to run it at your tackles. So those guys to show up. You need your linebackers, Josh Ross and Junior Colson, to show up. And if they can do that, I don't see them having a whole lot of trouble here, other than maybe having a letdown from the Ohio State game. But it's hard to have a letdown when you're now playing for a championship. It's not like you're going into just a regular season game now. So I don't see much of that happening. And I think they will stop the run. So, I think Michigan can easily cover that spread. And I think they win this week in Indy. And I think they go to, I want to say it's Dallas, where they'll be going and playing likely Cincinnati in the Cotton Bowl.
And a game, unfortunately, that should mean more than it really does is Pitt and Wake Forest. Pitt, with the ugly loss to Western Michigan, your school, at the beginning of the year is going to come back and haunt them. If they would be 11-1 right now, I would say that they really do have a shot to get in. They'd be a top 10 team for sure. And this Wake Forest team is no joke at 10-2. They started faltering late in the last month. But Sam Hartman has been a really good quarterback this year, definitely under the radar. Bringing this Wake Forest team, it seems like out of the dumpster for a long time. And I think Pitt will get it done with Kenny Pickett at the helm. He's been too good this year. Even in the Heisman race, he's been too good and could be potentially the first quarterback taken off the board next year. And I'm also liking that over as well, because I've seen way too many Wake Forest games where it's like 50-45 as well. So definitely bet the over. But Pittsburgh, in the end, Kenny Pickett will throw for 3 TDs, 350 yards, and dominate this Wake Forest team.
Yeah, this is a battle of 2 really good quarterbacks, 2 really good offenses, 2 suspect defenses. So I think this is going to be a shootout. You can see that in the over-under. But I think Pittsburgh, their quarterback is a step above in Kenny Pickett, and I think their defense is a step above. They've actually been able to hold some good teams to below 40 points, something Wake Forest really hasn't done. They gave up 50, obviously, to North Carolina. So I think Wake Forest has more question marks on that side of the ball than Pittsburgh. And if you like to watch high-scoring games, this is the game. I won't be watching a single second of this game. But
maybe
for all you non-Big Ten,
it's at halftime, the Michigan game, and there's still some time.
Maybe. But I'm gonna go with Pittsburgh. Less question marks on their team.
And for the rescheduled game, this game doesn't really mean much for either of these teams, except that it's the last game of the season for both. And Cal at home. I think that's the only reason why I'm taking them here, because this game is flip a coin and that's who's going to win. At least USC has Lincoln Riley, and obviously he can't coach for this game because he's already coached this year and all that stuff. But, is he going to have that effect on the team already? Who knows? And definitely that's something, that's worth monitoring, because, he spoke to the team, obviously, and letting them know what's up about his plans for next year and all that. But this year, I think Cal is going to win this game, the Battle of California, you could say. And honestly, I ran out of things already to talk about, because there's really nothing to say except Lincoln Riley for the only game.
Yeah, this is more like a game really late at night if you're just hungry for another game to throw money on. I would take Cal spread if it was me. I think USC is the more talented team by far, but I think they just have no motivation left this season. And motivation is a big factor in football. Cal, if they have a 5-7 season, they win this game, that could be kind of a building block for them and building their program back up. USC, if they win this game, they're 5-7, they're still not going to a bowl game, and it's still just huge disappointment for their standards. So I think Cal is the more motivated team, and playing at home, I think they'll win this game, and I think they'll cover the spread.
And that'll be it for this week. As you can see, we have a new picture here. And if you look in the upper left-hand corner, you can see the final score of a game. I can't really tell what it is, but you can see. And, next week, I believe we're going to have one game and one game only, in the Army-Navy game. So we'll do probably a 5-minute or less video talking about that game. But, until next week, thanks for watching. The Bench Buddies are out.
She never called back.